the 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Wednesday, March 26, 2025, and the Philadelphia Eagles are still Super Bowl champions. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Cavs, Philly Tailgates, and the STT Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. Chet, there's plenty of NFL free agency and Eagles to talk about. The Sixers still stink. The Flyers are just as bad, but it's a big but. It's baseball season 2025 starting tomorrow afternoon in Washington. Along with that, we will make our Fearless Phillies season predictions tonight. It's a great time of year. And you know what, Chet? We're going to throw in, we just heard some breaking news maybe that the Eagles have fired the pep band. Go figure. We have plenty to talk about in Philly sports.
Well, first of all, a big thank you to those Super Bowl champion Eagles for keeping our interest right through February and into March with free agency. And the fact that the Phillies are about to get it going in earnest because, yeah, as you said, the Sixers and Flyers have just really stunk it up this season. And it's even been more horrendous the last 3 weeks or so. They can't win a game. They don't seem to want to win a game. Unbelievably bad. So glad that we can start talking Phillies baseball, Bill.
Absolutely. And we have a couple great guests tonight to do just that in our man from the STT Sports Network and host of the outstanding Trending in the AM daily podcast, Phil Stiefel, and the radio voice of the Phillies, Scott Franzke, making his annual visit to Philly Pressbox Radio.
Yeah, that we do. I got to tell you, I love listening to Franzke call the games on the radio. He's just so damn smooth. But you know what? I bet Scott can't grow a great beard like that of our first guest. Phil says he's had that beard, by the way, without fail for 20 plus years now. And it is impressive. So let's bring the beard of knowledge on and get it going, Bill.
Well, let's do that. But I bet you that Franzke can't make a pizza like Stiefel either. What do you think?
True, too. Absolutely.
Well, welcome back. As mentioned, the host of Trending in the AM podcast, great show. Welcome back to Philly Pressbox Radio.
Hey, thanks for inviting me back. Thanks for bringing me back. And you know, the beard. Like I said, I have had a beard or facial hair every single day since the day I graduated high school. Being a Catholic school kid, no facial hair or anything like that. I did take a 2-week hiatus, the worst job of my life. I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car for 2 weeks, and I quit that job so fast because it was A, it was horrible, and B, this face without facial hair, it just doesn't work.
I got you. Well, let's start off with a little Eagles talk before we get to the Phillies, as you can see in the background. No major news over the past week regarding the Eagles. You know, we had BG retirement last week. They signed a little depth offensive tackle guy, nothing major. There have been far more player departures than additions since free agency began. We even got a surprising trade of CJ GJ earlier this month. So, Phil, how should we feel about this Eagles team given all those exits as we await the NFL draft that begins 4 weeks from tomorrow?
I think we should feel fantastic for the Philadelphia Eagles all season so far. I think a lot of people are misunderstanding all these departures. Yes, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was a little shocking, but we're going to be returning. What's up, Anthony? How you doing? We're going to be returning, I think it's 17 or 18 starters from a Super Bowl roster. We're going to be returning our defensive coordinator. Yes, we have to get a new offensive coordinator in Kevin Petula, but this offseason is about retaining and, you know, rewarding our star players, but also keeping next year in mind. Because next year you are going to have to pay who is going to arguably become the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL in Jalen Carter. He is going to need to get that extension. And all the moves they're making, all these one-year cheap deals, the Uches of the world, the Ojularis of the world, these are moves to add depth to this team, but also the 1-year prove-it deals that Howie is very, very keen on signing, because also if you lose these guys, if they succeed, like a Mekhi Becton, you get the comp picks. And Howie Roseman loves those comp picks for trades, for extra additions, whatever it may be. So I think this has been a fantastic offseason. You've locked up a lot of guys for a very long period of time. You spent a lot of money in the last 2 off seasons in free agency. This is that year where you take care of your guys and look forward to next year.
Yeah, I agree with you, Phil. I think we knew Josh Sweat probably wasn't coming back from the get-go. We pretty much knew Darius Slay wasn't coming back from the get-go. So, I mean, really, as you mentioned, the only surprise was Gardner Johnson, I think. But it's all about depth. And they've lost a lot of depth, and they've tried to sign a lot of short-term depth. So, looking forward to see how that plays out. And obviously, you got to stay healthy.
That depth that you lost Josh Sweat. First off, Arizona is going to massively regret that contract. Almost $80 million for Josh Sweat. No offense, I love Josh Sweat, but that's going to be a bit much. Milton Williams, again, he was going to get paid no matter what, that we couldn't pay him. But you already got Sweat's replacement in Jalix Hunt. Right. You've already got Milton Williams' replacement in Moro Ojomo. So they've been developing the replacements for all these guys. Tyler Steen to replace Mekhi Becton. You know, outside of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, every guy we've lost in free agency, we already have their replacement on the roster. Keely Ringo for Darius Slay. So the list goes on and on. These guys are replaced already.
Phil, we had our pal Big Al on the show last week, and he said he liked the fact that the Birds signed another former Giant, a guy you mentioned, the edge rusher, Azeez Ojulari, to a 1-year deal. He's had some trouble staying healthy during his career so far, but Ojulari did have 6 sacks in 11 games last season. You like that signing?
I do, because I like the combination Ojulari, or however you say it. I've heard 5 people say it 5 different ways. I'm not even sure how you pronounce it. Just like the other guy, Uche or Uche or whatever. Don't call me Uzi. The combination of those 2 guys combined, it's going to be like $6 million. You're going to get the same amount of production between the 2 of them that you would have gotten from Josh Sweat, in my opinion. Plus, you have another year of Jalix Hunt learning and growing from his rookie year there. I think they're all great signings that they've made so far. Even the offensive lineman they signed, Lamb, whatever his name is, from the Dolphins, you needed him to replace Fred Johnson, who is your swing backup tackle there, and he's got 9 years of experience to do that. So I think Howie's had a very calculated, smart offseason with each and every one of these moves so far.
Yeah, and I like the way that he's done the offense. I mean, he's got everybody pretty much locked into longer-term deals. He restructured Lane, got him set up. It looks like the only real position of need on offense is the tight end position. Only because they want to make a move there. They still have another year in the contract.
The problem with Dallas Goedert is that, as you say, you can't help the club from the top. He's one of the greatest tight ends out there in football right now, but he misses time. In the last 4 years, he's missed a full season of football. So, how much can you realistically pay him? He has no guaranteed money on his contract. Can you really pay him $10 or $12 million next year and then risk losing him? So either they're going to work out some kind of an extension for him, which is I actually think kind of what they should do if they can get a 1 year added on with all those dummy years that Howie likes to do, or they're going to try to trade him. There's a chance that on draft night you see him packaged to either move up or down the board to acquire more assets. There you go. There are the picks. I could see Dallas Goedert being moved on draft night, but then where do you go? They signed 2 tight ends in Bryant, and I forget the other kid's name. You got Grant Calcaterra. None of them are going to give you the production that Dallas Goedert gives you. So I don't know. I don't know what they do with Dallas Goedert there, but because they don't know what they're going to do, I think you're going to see him get some kind of an extension, to cheaper, lower that cap hit there.
So, Phil, with so many players lost through free agency and that GJ trade, do you expect Howie to go heavy on defensive players in next month's draft?
Yeah, I think they need a defensive tackle for sure, because I talk about Moro Ojomo is there to replace Milton Williams' production, but he can't replace Milton Williams' snaps. Milton Williams had just over 500 snaps last year. Moro Ojomo, people don't realize, played almost 400 snaps last year. So he can increase his snap load, his snap count maybe by 100, 125, but that still leaves about 350 snaps on defense. And if you can't figure out how to get more production out of Jordan Davis, then you're going to have to bring in another young stud. If they stay at 32, there's quite a few names I see bouncing around. I'm not a college expert, but there's a lot of people that like a lot of defensive tackles in that number 32 spot for the Eagles. I see that being their number one target at this point if they stay pat at 32.
What do you think about the linebacker position? You know, something nobody even thought about around here for 20 years.
Yeah.
But they got great production from Zach Bond, great production from Nakobe Dean until he got hurt. Jeremiah Trotter looks like he's ready to be in the mix. But do you need some more depth there? You look for a linebacker somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll look at linebacker in the 4th, 5th round of the draft potentially. They have, 4 or 5 5th-round picks. I could see them actually trading some of them to trade back and pick up 6th and 7th. But, you know, if they don't attack the linebacker position anymore this offseason other than a depth draft pick, that tells me that they think Nakobe Dean will be ready to go week 1. That kind of injury, that's a lot longer of an recovery than I would normally think. So I'm surprised that they haven't addressed it more yet, which tells me then that they're very confident in Nakobe Dean's recovery. It's a big year for Nakobe Dean. Getting hurt right there. It is a contract year for Nakobe Dean as well, just like Dallas Goedert, Cam Jurgens, and Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. There's a lot of contract years, and coming off of an injury like that, Nakobe Dean's got to impress and come back healthy and show that he can stay healthy to get that next big contract.
Phil, is Kaiwan referring to you when he says the great one?
K1, you have a Zuden hoop kind of a night, all right, my man? Let's leave it at that. K1 is the biggest Kenny Gainwell fan, and I literally think he cried himself to sleep the night that Kenny Gainwell left to go to Pittsburgh.
All right, that's enough Eagles talk. We got to move on. Well, unfortunately, I want to get just 1 minute on the Flyers and Sixers. We're going to combine those. You do your show 4 or 5 weekday mornings a week, typically. Phil, what are your viewers saying about this god-awful Flyers and Sixers season?
When do they end? At least some listeners want to at least vent for a minute or two on the Flyers. Nobody wants to talk the Sixers whatsoever anymore. I started doing a quick thing. I'm doing something every morning. Today was only the 3rd day I did it. I'm calling out Josh Harris every single morning. I'm posting a quick 30-second video. Josh Harris needs to fire Daryl Morey. I do not trust Daryl Morey running anything else with this team. Yeah, he's drafted a couple nice kids, but he's the reason. He's the reason that we're in this position. The contracts for Embiid and Paul George have complete. Yeah, we don't bazzoon hoot about the Sixers one bit. K1, exactly, my man. Look, it's this has got to be one of the most disappointing seasons. I'm 44 years old. You know what I mean? Like in 30, 40 years, like I watched and cared more about the 2014 10-win Sixers team than I do this team. There's no connection. There's no personality. They've just flat out lied to us every single week. Like there was a report literally like 15, 20 minutes ago from Kyle Neubeck who said that they're still not shutting down Tyrese Maxey. Maybe they'll let him play one of the last couple games of the year. Yeah, they're not going to let him play. They're just continuing to drag us all along, hoping to sell one more ticket, whatever it may be. It's an embarrassment, the organization from top to bottom right now.
I agree.
Well, and the big question, who gets fired first, Nick Nurse or John Tortorella?
Whose season ends first? The Sixers. So Sixers probably. Yeah, John Tortorella's got to go too. You know what I mean? He's. I said it the day he was hired that he was not the man for this job because he's not the man for a rebuild. He's the man to push you a little bit further, your first round exits or whatever. He'll push that veteran team, but he's not the guy to teach the young kids. And it was all about 2026 with the Flyers anyway, right? Isn't that what Danny Briere and Keith Jones said the day they took over? We're building towards 2026. Well, that's the whole point. So Tortorella, he'll be gone day one in the offseason.
But did we think we would collapse as much in 25 after maybe they played over their heads in 2024? This has been a pretty bad run here.
Last year as well. Last year they actually were doing better and collapsed harder because they were in the playoff hunt with 3-4 weeks left in the season and they lost all those games. They haven't been in the playoff hunt for 2 months now. So, the collapse is even worse this year. So
I'm going to switch our background to a little Phillies blue right now. And Phil, some of your viewers earlier this week accused you of being negative regarding the Phillies. Go figure. Explain to everybody, where do you stand on the Phils and what are your expectations this season?
I don't understand the Negadelphian word. I hate the Negadelphian word, first and foremost. Let me say that. I've traveled the world for work. Everywhere I go, I try to represent Philadelphia and Philadelphia sports in a positive light. I am not negative about this Philadelphia Phillies team. This is going to be a great Philadelphia Phillies team. they're going to win 90, 95 games this year without a doubt. But we have to hold them accountable for their playoff collapses the last 2 years. And that's all I am saying. I'm saying that we need to hold them accountable. We need to be a realistic fan base and understand this team has not changed at all. You've added Max Kepler and Luzardo, the pitcher. And that's it. It's the same exact team. You still got Kyle Schwarber leading off. You still got hitters that do not know, how to take a pitch, how to hit the ball opposite field, to play small ball. And you still got Taijuan Walker starting baseball games for this team.
Sad.
And, it's a sad state that this is a very, very good team that is built to win in a 162-game season. They are not built to win a best-of-7 series. And unfortunately, unless something drastically changes this year, we're going to be sitting here in October complaining that they get knocked out in the NLDS or NLCS again.
And we'll be adding Rob Thompson to that list that we just talked about.
Well, I made a joke last week this might be the first time in my lifetime that 3 of the 4 major teams in our city all fire their coach in the same season, in the same year.
We wanted to fire the football coach at the beginning of this season.
I did not.
Too.
I did not want to fire Nick Sirianni, but I will say this right now, and you guys may not have been following me for a very long time, but after we lost the World Series in 2022, I said very openly, Rob Thompson deserves another year, but Rob Thompson should not be guaranteed to be the head coach of the head manager of the Phillies. They needed to bring in other voices and interview people even after getting to the World Series. He caught lightning in a bottle in 2022. They have a $300 million payroll of talent. They get by on the talent. But Rob Thompson is not the guy. So they need a John Tortorella in the playoffs to push them over the top, to hold them accountable, to yell and scream. They need a Larry Boa type to do that kind of thing. And Rob Thompson's not that guy.
Well, Phil, we know
Chet,
Phil.
Me and Phil didn't practice that.
No.
Because
I
Phil,
know.
I've been saying that for years.
I
would love to go have a beer with Rob Thompson. I'd love to, hang out and talk baseball with Rob Thompson. But I don't want the manager of my baseball team being the drunk uncle, everybody's favorite person at Thanksgiving dinner. That's not what I want. I want a guy that's going to hold them accountable, that's going to not be afraid to shake things up when necessary. But here we are. Tomorrow's opening day, and we're right here where we're always at.
Phil, who's the most important guy on the Phillies this season? Is it Trey Turner? Is it Bryson Stott? Who is the key to their success, do you think?
Rob Thompson. Rob Thompson willing to shake things up. Put Trey Turner in the leadoff spot. All offseason we heard, we're going to mix it up. We're going to make Trey Turner the leadoff hitter. Now, 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 weeks, whatever it has been from the season, here we are back to Kyle Schwarber, the leadoff hitter. Oh, maybe we'll platoon it versus lefties and righties. Rob Thompson backtracked on his words so much this offseason. If you want to go with the player, I think it's Bryce Harper needs to step up this year big time. And not at the plate. We know he's an MVP caliber player. He's always going to be great on the field. But someone's got to become the leader in that locker room. Someone needs to be the John Kruk, Darren Dalton. If Rob Thompson can't hold them accountable, somebody in the locker room has to step up their leadership skills. They got a lot of quiet leaders, a lot of on-the-field leaders, but they don't have that locker room juggernaut person that'll hold them accountable. Like the Eagles have had those kind of guys over the last couple of years, the Brandon Grahams of the world, the Jason Kelce's of the world. Who's that guy on the Phillies? Bryce Harper needs to be that guy, and he needs to step up in that role.
Phil, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and you're probably just a little too young to you weren't part of this, but in the mid to late 70s, there was a guy named Danny Ozark who was the manager of the Phillies, and this is almost the exact same scenario. Had tremendous teams, couldn't get them over the hump. Their kids talked about getting Pete Rose here in this comment, and Pete Rose was certainly a big deal there. But getting Dallas Green in and taking Danny Ozark out of the managerial position pushed that team over the hump. And I 100% agree with you, and I've been saying it for a couple of years. I think they need to make a move. Can't make a player a leader.
I get called an idiot. I get called a hater for saying that. You know how it is in social media and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. And I love making random crazy comments and predictions. And I made a bold prediction today that definitely won't happen. But my bold prediction that won't happen is that Rob Thompson gets fired on June 3rd and Jimmy Rollins takes over as interim manager for the rest of the season. I don't know if he's the right guy, but at least he knows how to win. And he would bring a different personality. It's weird. Football has gone towards this youthful management, and coaches, like guys get jobs at 32, 35. What was Sean McVay? 32 when he got hired. Sean Payton was young when he got his thing. Football went to young managers and coaches. Baseball hasn't done that. They still keep the old heads. You need a youthful person that's going to energize this team, that's going to hold them together, but also not be afraid. Charlie Manuel wasn't afraid to bench Jimmy Rollins when he didn't run out a ground ball. Rob Thompson would never do that. Jimmy Rollins might. I don't know. It's just a crazy out of left field prediction, but I would love to see it.
I should note that in the second half of our show tonight, Bill and I will make our official Phillies predictions. Last year, Bill said 90 regular season wins. I said 93. They ended up with 95, of course. Should have been more, but they kind of collapsed over the last 2 months of the regular season. And then tomorrow morning, Phil on his Trending in the AM show will do his season preview. So make sure you check that out. Now, before we wrap up, I have one other important question for you, Phil. You may not be a huge Rob Thompson fan, but I heard something last week on Trending in the AM that surprised me. It shocked me, in fact. You are a fan of plays, musicals, and the Tony Awards. I did not have that on my Phil Stiefel bingo card.
Let me tell you something. People look at me. They look at the beard. You can't see I got long shoes. I got tattoos all over my arm. I don't know. I'm a Catholic boy. I went to private school. I was a smart kid. I did musicals. I sang. I danced. I was on the chess team in high school. I'm a well-rounded guy. I'm not just all about sports here. The Tonys are the greatest. The Tonys are the only award show all year long I will watch. I don't watch the Oscars. I don't watch the Grammys. I don't watch any of that. I watch the Tonys every year from start to finish.
And it's the one award show that I don't watch. Go figure.
Hey, Phil, I have one thing to close with, too. And we talked about this before, but we got to talk about it again. You are a pizza guru. You can go ahead and give a shameless plug to your pizza shop.
Right, we're recording live from the pizza shop right there.
There you go. But I think I have a beef with you, and I think probably most of our listeners will, that you don't like pepperoni pizza. What is wrong with the pizza man?
It's not that I don't like pepperoni. I just think pepperoni is massively overrated. Pepperoni is so basic. Isn't that what the cool kids call it nowadays? Basic. Isn't that what they say about things now? Like
cool kids,
it's basic. Yeah. Like if you're not putting bacon on your pizza, really spicy Italian sausage, some red onions, some banana peppers, you got to mix it up. You don't have to get a pepperoni pizza always. It's overrated. And if you're going to get pepperoni, you better put other things to make it good.
What's your favorite topping? I don't remember if we asked you. What's your favorite?
I like a combination of bacon. My go-to build is bacon, sausage, red onions, and banana peppers. All four of them on a pizza together. That's a chef's kiss right there for me.
Is that Heartburn City for me, man?
That's why I'm on prescriptions, okay? I'm Italian. I like my red sauce, okay?
Well, hey, Phil, before we let you go, go ahead and give a plug to the pizza shop and then get over and talk about what you got going on over at the STT Sports Network, which we are part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm over here at Fox's Pizza, Kennett Square. We just celebrated our 17-year anniversary of being open here in Kennett Square. So come on out. We have Phillies on every single night when they're on. We're watching them here in the pizza shop. So come on out, have a slice, talk sports with me, and also get the best pizza in Kennett Square right here. Reigning defending champion there for like 15 years now. So I would love to see anybody and everybody out here at Fox's Pizza. And yes, Trending in the AM Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on the STT Sports Network. It's the only show, I always like to say, we set the trends for what sports talk should be, and it's the only show. Oh, look at this. See? Pepperoni's overrated. There's at least one other person out there. I like to say that the show is about the people. The comments are what drive the show. I start the show off with an opening monologue, and wherever the conversation goes, wherever the commenters go, I let them direct the show their way. That's all it is.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yep. All right. Hey, tell us.
Please subscribe to it. Trying to get to 500 subscribers. I got to pass you guys in the subscriber count list. So find it, guys. STT Sports Network and subscribe.
Well, and I was going to say the STT Sports Network, you're trying to build that, right? We're part of it now. And you got anything else going on there?
Oh, well, I got Fairway to Heaven. We are 2 weeks away from the Masters. Fairway to Heaven's my golf show. I do that on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. I'm going to start doing live watch parties during the Phillies game. I'm going to try to do a different night every week where you can watch a Phillies game with me, talk about the game, call out, live and breathe on every pitch like we all do. But that's it right now. I mean, this pizza shop's taking up 7 days of my life right now. I'm sure you guys know. The workforce out there in the world is not amazing right now. I'm breaking in 3 or 4 new kids right now at the shop, so I'm here 7 days a week right now. So not much time to add much more, but if you subscribe, you never know. Try to do more shorts, and of course, I'm calling out Daryl Morey and Josh Harris every day on the channel.
You know, I should mention Phil's at like 478 subscribers or something like that, closing in on 500. We're at 537, but we've been on YouTube for like 4.5 years. So I predicted last week that Phil's going to pass us in about 2 weeks, and that's okay.
I'm at 5 months with this channel. So whenever the EOP end happened, that's when I started the STT.
You're doing okay, man.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, Phil, we appreciate you taking the time to do it, and let's do it again.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks very much, and I can't wait to listen to the Scott Franzke interview in a few minutes. So
absolutely,
we'll be there.
All right, bubbles up, guys.
All right, thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Hey, Chet, tell us what's going on over at the Irish Rover Station House.
Well, you know, I'm glad you asked, Bill. But before I do that, I want to find a picture of the Irish Rover. There you go. If you want to find out what a successful bar and restaurant is, look no further than the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. Always 24 beers on tap, served up by the Rovers, terrific bartenders, and a full menu of delicious food choices. Weekly staples include Tuesday, a meatloaf dinner for $11.95. Wow. Wednesdays are not only trivia nights, but a night you can get a prime rib dinner for $19.95 and the Rovers signature martini for $5. Now, they have burgers and they have Thursday through Sunday dinner specials. Also on Thursday in the evening, $9 wings and $5 giant Stella pours. Happy hour deals Monday through Friday. They got it all going on at the Irish Rover Station House. Live music on Saturdays, too. The Irish Rover Station House is located on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. There it is. Real nice place. And with the weather warming up, that outside patio is going to be hopping in just a few weeks. I know that. Check them out on the web, irishroverstationhouse.com.
Hey, Whitey man, I miss you. When I listen to the Phillies.
Hi, I'm singer-songwriter and diehard Phillies fan Chuck Brodsky, and you're watching Bill and Chet knock it out of the park on Philly Pressbox Radio. Go Phils!
You know,
awesome.
by the way, Bill, that's Chuck Brodsky, and I met him in person finally. We had him on the show not too long ago, but I met him in person down in Clearwater last week on St. Patrick's Day. Just a super guy who performed a couple of well-received concerts while he was down there later in the week. And last night, he did a private show, a house show for 11 people. You know, people pay for that sort of thing. And 2 of the guests happened to be Sandy Koufax and his wife. This was down in Vero Beach, Florida, the spring home of the Dodgers. So how about that?
Sandy lives in Vero. How about that?
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Chet, NFL free agency, we thought it was calming down a little bit. The Birds, as we mentioned, lost some offensive depth this week with Fred Johnson. As we mentioned, they signed Kendall Lamb from the Dolphins. But now we find out Russell Wilson is now in the NFC East with the Giants. There's rumors going around today that Cleveland is trying to get Dak Prescott from Dallas in a trade. That's a possibility. Man, who knows where this is going to end? Still a lot of chess playing being played by Howie Roseman and his staff, and where I guess we're in what you might call the third wave of free agency.
Yeah, well, the Kendall Lamb signing is interesting. He's a veteran who can play both left and right tackle. He's always graded very, very well as a pass blocker in particular, but he's not a young'un. He's going to be 33 in June, and his 2024 season ended a few weeks early due to a back injury that did require surgery. But I guess the Eagles think he is going to be good to go by late summer and that he'll provide some O-line depth following, as you said, Fred Johnson's departure. So, not a bad signing. Now, as far as the Russell Wilson thing, not only Russell Wilson, but they got Jameis Winston too, didn't they, the Giants?
They did.
That's crazy. Are they going to draft a quarterback now and just, go with these 2 old heads for a while? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, do you go with Cam Ward or Shador Sanders or Jackson Dart there in the first round when you've just signed 2 veteran quarterbacks? I don't know how this is going to play out. There's been some rumbling all season about these college quarterbacks aren't that good. And, maybe they're setting themselves up to go somewhere else with that draft pick. The Giants go with these guys and play for next year and maybe get a quarterback.
Yeah, well, the Giants are a bit of a mess. We know that. I think I heard today the over-under for the Giants in the 2025 season, 3.5 wins. And I'm not so sure I'd take the over with that either.
Yeah, I'd have to wonder what Russell Wilson's thinking. His wife is the singer, right? Russell Wilson?
Ciara, yeah.
Ciara. So he didn't have to go to New York for money, obviously, because between the tons he's made and the tons she's made, money isn't a problem. But maybe it was a business decision by the two of them to go to New York and get some Big Apple publicity. But why in the world he would go there to play is beyond me.
Aaron Rodgers is still out there, and there's talk the Steelers may be interested in him. I guess they just have Mason Rudolph now. Aaron Rodgers should just hang it up, in my opinion. But every other team now does have a guy that they consider to be their QB1 at least, except the Steelers. So maybe that's where he will end up. We'll see.
Rodgers did meet with them last week, I guess it was. So, yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance that Aaron Rodgers lands in Pittsburgh.
All things considered, he did not have a horrible year with the Jets last year. In fact, over the last 10 weeks or so, he was actually, pretty decent for a guy who's 70 years old now.
You're right. Right. Yeah, I'm with you though. I think it's time for Aaron to move on, but the Steelers are probably going to pay him a lot of money. Somebody is to get one more year out of him. And we'll see. Yep. I saw a thing today. You mentioned Mason Rudolph. For 3 straight years, it had a list of 3 straight years of the quarterback room for the Steelers, and it has changed entirely each of the last 3 years.
Huh.
You're not winning that way.
Wow.
You're just not going to win that way. But I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, especially as the draft comes up, with how he's going to do this. As we talked about with Phil, there's a lot of money that's got to be put in places and saved up for next year, when they have to pay all these rookies, rookie contracts that are ended. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes from here.
Yeah, sure is.
All right. Well, hey, tell me, Chet, what could be better than a summer of Phillies baseball and tailgating with the best tailgaters in Philadelphia, Bob Cavanaugh and the gang at Cavs Philly Tailgates?
Let me tell you about Cav, who I saw while down in Clearwater. Cavs Philly Tailgates has been cooking up a terrific catering business for some 35 years now, known best for their tailgate parties. Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cav also does corporate events, parties, you name it. Of course, Cav hosts tailgates before all Eagles games outside the link, and there will be tailgates outside Citizens Bank Park this spring and summer too. I believe they do those in the Jet Row a lot, including one before the home opener, which is, of course, coming up on Monday. Plus, pregame tailgates before a couple of other big games this spring and early summer. Saturday games against the Dodgers in April and the Mets in June. Oh, check out the Cavs Baycare Ballpark outfield sign down there. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there you go. There's Cav and John Middleton, Phillies owner, and a bunch of happy tailgaters out in center field at Baycare Ballpark in Clearwater earlier this month. Very cool. So check out Cavs Philly Tailgates. And the actual website is phillytailgates.com. If you do have questions, by the way, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go.
Hey, Jet, speaking of baseball, before we talk about the Phillies again for just a few minutes, I want to tell you a little story about going on down here in Tampa. The Rays lost their stadium in a hurricane. They can't play in Tropicana Field.
Right.
So they're playing at Steinbrenner Field, which is the spring training home of the Yankees. It seats between 9,000 and 10,000. They just sold out the opener for 10,000 seats.
Wow.
What do they call them? The Savannah Bananas?
Oh, yeah.
Was at Raymond James Stadium about a week and a half ago and sold 50,000+ tickets for the Bananas. Can't sell 10,000 for the Rays. And actually, my son was just looking up for Tuesday. They play the Pirates. Paul Skeens is scheduled to pitch.
Yeah.
Row 1 seats are $22.
Oh, man.
In a 10,000 seat spring training stadium. It's baseball's rough going in Tampa.
The Savannah Bananas, though, from what I hear, are amazing. They sold out Citizens Bank Park last year, too. And I'm going to try to see them next time they're in this area because I hear it's a really good show. A lot
They
of fun.
said it was a great show, but
Yeah.
you got to be able to sell 10,000 seats the opening day of a Major League Baseball team. A lot of trouble brewing in Tampa with this baseball club.
Hey, before we get to our Scott Franzke interview, I don't know if you saw, but your favorite columnist, Bill, Marcus Hayes, did a little column the other day. And let's see if I can find it. He put the manager, Rob Thompson, already on the hot seat. So, yeah, there it is. How long will Rob Thompson's leash be with Dave Dombrowski and John Middleton after 2 disappointing Phillies seasons? Of course, he's referring to what happened in the postseason. So Marcus Hayes already has Thompson firmly on the hot seat.
Yeah, I think he is. I think the whole team is. I think that if this doesn't work, they're going to blow it up.
Yeah.
They've got some new contracts that have to happen. Schwarber looking for a deal. Real Muto's looking for a deal. These guys are hitting 30, and getting into their 30s. You're not going to sign them to another 5-year contract. Now you may get away with that a little bit if you win a World Series. You may keep some guys, but I think this is I think this is a big season for Thompson and for the whole group.
I asked Scott Franzke, who I talked to earlier today, about that very fact, the fact that, a lot of the key guys are 32, 33, 34 years old. And, is this maybe going to be the last go round for this core group? So that was part of the interview. And I got to tell you this, too. I don't know what the hell happened, but I had a little Wi-Fi issue in the middle of my interview with Scott Franzke. Had to put him on hold for 5 minutes. Had to do the second half of the interview with me asking the questions basically over the phone, but him on the screen able to answer them. And then I was able to, go back in and piece everything together. But I'm hoping my Wi-Fi holds out for the remaining 20 minutes of this hour. But we do have that Scott Franzke interview, Bill, if you're ready.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's find Scott just a couple of hours ago today. All right, another Phillies regular season will begin Thursday afternoon in Washington. And as we do every March at about this time, let's preview the season with the radio voice of the Phillies, Scott Franzke. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Hey, Chet. How are you? Good to see you.
Doing all right. Well, let's get right to it. We've heard so much debate, not just this spring, really, but the last couple of years about the Phillies lineup, particularly the leadoff hitter, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, or maybe this season it'll change from game to game based on the opposing pitcher or other factors. Can a hybrid lineup like that work, Scott?
Yeah, I think it can work. I think you're going to see the same basic hitters at the top of the lineup in the same basic location. I do think that early in the season, you're going to see a few different configurations. The basic order of things might change a little bit from day to day based on matchups. But yeah, I think most of the data suggests that you're not going to gain that much of an advantage. So then it comes down to, well, who's comfortable where and who likes to hit where. And so, that's up for the manager to try to figure out along the way. And I think Rob Thompson will try a few things, especially early in the year.
How about JT Real Muto? Will he get more days off this season? And if so, is Marchand up to the task?
Well, they always say they're going to give JT more time off, and it never totally seems to work that way. I think Marchand will be up to the task. I think he's a good catcher. You won't lose a lot defensively, and that's saying something. But, Rafael is a very good defensive catcher, and in the limited time he's been in the big leagues, he's shown a little aptitude with the bat. So yeah, again, it changes your lineup a little bit. You shuffle things around a little bit if JT's not in there. But yeah, I think by and large, they feel comfortable about where they're at that position.
We expect to see Max Kepler, I know you like him, and Brandon Marsh in left and center field most days. But how will Johan Rojas fit in this year?
Well, some of that is predicated on what Brandon does. Brandon's going to get some opportunities, especially early against lefties, to show that he's improved and show that he can handle left-handed pitching. So if he does that, then there are fewer and fewer opportunities for Johan. But I do think you'll see defensive switches late in the game, perhaps, and you'll make some changes there. But, again, early on, if Brandon Marsh is hitting well against lefties, he's going to play a lot. And then if he's not, then that job goes to Rojas against righties.
Will Bryce Harper, do you think, get back to MVP caliber Bryce this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bryce is Bryce, and I don't see any signs of him slowing down. So yeah, if he's healthy, I would fully expect a pretty good year out of Bryce.
How about Bryson Stott? He had a rough year last year, had some injury issues. What do you expect from Stott this year?
Well, all reports in spring training are good. Looking at him during spring training, he looks like he's swinging free and easy. He looks like the guy he was 2 years ago. That would be a huge boost for the offense because, again, I've kind of touted Bryson as a guy who could potentially man the leadoff spot for the Phillies. He could hit for a high average. He'll draw some walks. He can obviously steal bases. He's got gap power, a few home runs here and there. But, I everything we've seen in spring training, again, spring training numbers are what they are. They don't always translate into results in the regular season, but I like what I've seen so far.
Regarding the rotation, I think everybody feels good about Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez, and newcomer Luzardo, but the Ranger Suarez back injury is a definite concern, plus the fact that they've anointed Taijuan Walker to take over the fifth spot in the rotation to start the season anyway. Are those worries about Suarez and Walker justified?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about two players who dealt with the same thing last year, right? Walker struggled in his spot in the fifth spot in the rotation, lost his spot. Ranger, he struggled with back injury last year. So they can be tricky. And if you keep getting in this situation where it keeps coming back, then obviously, I mean, everybody is saying down there in Florida that it's not a huge concern of theirs, that they feel like he'll get through it and he won't be long on the IL. But yeah, I think anytime it happens, you're concerned a little bit.
Let's move to the bullpen, which is always a focal point for fans. Orion Kerkering is back. Matt Strom had some shoulder issues, but should be okay. Newcomer Jordan Romano will be a big piece out there. But how about the spring Jose Alvarado had? I mean, 9 innings, just 3 hits, 3 walks, 20 strikeouts, 0 earned runs. I heard you on WIP the other day, Scott, saying Alvarado right now is at the top of the trust list.
Yeah, I mean, Rob Thompson has said to us on a few different occasions, he said he doesn't think he's ever seen him better. And we've seen him pretty darn good at different times. So that's saying a lot. But yeah, he looks phenomenal. He looks confident. He looks sharp. His stuff is electric. His command is really good. So again, you're talking about spring training numbers and you're not always facing the top competition in those situations. But I do think from all indications, Jose Alvarado's back to where he was a couple of years ago, and that is to be one of the best left-handed relievers in the game.
All right, Bryce, JT, Schwarber, Castellanos, and Wheeler, they're all in the 32 to 34 range age-wise. Nola's going to be 32 in June. Is this something of a do-or-die season for this group, do you think, before some big changes might be required?
Well, I mean, the fact that you do have a collection of free agents coming up, Schwarber, Realmuto, Ranger, that obviously limits the universe for those guys potentially if you don't re-sign them. And I mean, anytime you get somebody in your, early to mid 30s, you're starting to wonder if you're on the downside. Athletes are staying sharper and better for much longer than they used to. So maybe they're not there yet. They're awfully good players. But yeah, I mean, I think anytime you've been there and you haven't reached the ultimate goal, you start to get worried and you start to think, well, is this going to be our final shot at it? But we'll see. But there's no doubt there's some guys that are on expiring contracts, and maybe that actually turns out to be a good thing because guys play for that next deal.
The NL East should be quite competitive this year with the Braves, Mets, and Phillies all looking like playoff teams. We'll see. Regarding your radio broadcast partner, Scott, did LA and Stock get enough work in down in Florida to get ready for this season?
Oh, yeah, they all did their time, that's for sure. We don't require quite as many reps as the players maybe do. And so I think they're ready to go. I know I'm excited, and I'm ready to start doing baseball that matters rather than spring training, which obviously doesn't matter a whole heck of a lot.
Finally, Scott, the internet tells me that you joined the Phillies radio operations in 2006, which means, if my math is correct, this is your 20th season with the Phillies. Can it really be 2 decades already?
It's hard to believe. It really is. I never envisioned it would be quite a ride quite like this, but it's been incredibly enjoyable, and happy to have it still going on. Yeah, 20 years kind of snuck up on me.
Well, Scott, thanks for keeping this annual tradition alive. It's much appreciated. Let's hope for a great Philly season.
All right. Thanks, Chet. Appreciate it.
Interesting. But I agree with him pretty much on everything. I guess the one thing that I'm really I'm with him. I want to see Jose Alvarado when the lights go on.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before from Alvarado. He can look really, really good, but then he loses that control for a while, and it gets really, really scary when he's out on the mound. So, he's not going to be perfect every night like he was down in Florida this spring. But, man, when he is on, he is fun to watch.
Yeah, he is. He is. He just you can almost tell, though, when he's thrown his first 3, 4, or 5 pitches if he's going to be on or not.
Yeah.
If he throws a couple strikes, he's good. And if he throws balls, they could be anywhere. So that I think that's a big key. The bullpen is a big key. We'll get to that a little bit in a few minutes when we talk about our predictions. But I think the bullpen is still definitely a concern for this guy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the bullpen's a concern every year. And, hopefully Kerkering will be a little bit more consistent this year. We talked about Alvarado. They like the newcomer, Jordan Romano. Matt Strom had that little shoulder thing, but, he's pretty reliable when he's healthy. And, I say, 90% of the time he's pretty reliable. So the bullpen could be very, very good. Remember last year going into the season, some publications ranked the Phillies bullpen among the best. Didn't turn out that way, by the end of the year, but they had their moments early and they lost a couple of guys. So, we'll see what this year brings.
All right. Hey, I want to slide over because there was a comment early on when Phil was on there. We didn't get to put it on. I'm switching back to the Flyers for just a second. This was a comment from Anthony that I wanted to get your thoughts on. Mitchkov has been great, so the Flyers season was a success. When we talked in the summer, they were just getting Mitchkov. Didn't really know what we were going to get other than we heard he was going to be a great player. He's got 50 points. Does that make the season any kind of a success, or do you say it'd have been far worse without him?
Maybe Anthony was being sarcastic. I don't know. Maybe he's considering it a success because they're the 4th or 5th worst team in the NHL and they'll get a high draft pick. So, that's going to be.
You're not buying it, huh?
No, I'm not buying it. Oh, by the way, before we do get to our Phillies predictions later, we do want to mention that, in 5 or 7 minutes, we will be making our official Phillies predictions for this year. And feel free, folks, to give us your predictions. How many wins for the Phillies this season, and how far will they go in the postseason? So feel free to, like PJ, 90 games. We heard Phil Stiefel say 90 to 95, but it's really going to come down to the postseason. The regular season doesn't really matter anymore. So we'll get your predictions. Feel free to post them, and we'll go from there. But in the meantime, the Flyers. And you said, both PJ and me, something today about John Tortorella, and I had that written down as well. That comment after last night's blowout loss, Tortorella saying, "I'm not really interested in learning how to coach in this type of season where we're at right now, but I do have to do a better job." What is he saying about it? Is he implying that, this isn't what he signed up for? He knew it was a rebuild.
Yeah, I think he owned it. He owned it that he's not doing a good enough job, because there was a little bit before that final sentence there. He owned it, but I also don't think he thought they were going to be as bad as they are, and they are bad.
I didn't either.
Last night was brutal. I unfortunately got to watch the second period where they gave up almost a touchdown. So, yeah, I don't know where that's going to stand. Hey, got to move on because I don't want to miss this. Word came today just before the show that the Eagles have let go of their pep band after 28 years.
Yeah.
Every game, every event, everything. The Eagles have cut ties with the pep band. What say you about that?
Yeah, that's a shame. And, we don't know the story behind it. But, when you're there almost 3 decades and they're certainly, a fan-friendly crew, people love them. Maybe they were something of a one-trick pony besides Fly Eagles Fly. You can't really name anything that they are known for, but man, so darn good. And it just gets the crowd going whenever they are at events. So, maybe it's just a money thing. The Eagles think there's something out there that could be more of a money maker for them. I don't know what the financial relationship was between the Eagles and the Pep Band. We don't know, but it's a shame. You hate to see traditions die like that, like Macy's closing forever last week in Center City,
Right.
Philadelphia, Bill.
Yeah, well, it's all part of it. Kate Smith statues in a closet somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happening everywhere. It's unfortunate. I think, I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know if anybody, once they don't hear them the first week, if anybody's going to care if they don't hear them the second week. But it's still a kind of thing that has been going on a long time, and you hate to see it go away.
Yeah, for sure. One other thing about the Flyers, the NHL's June draft is going to be huge for the orange and black this time around. They currently have 11 picks overall, including 3 in the first round. And their first round pick, as I said, will almost certainly be the 4th or 5th or 6th overall. So, hopefully Danny Briere and Keith Jones are busy right now doing their homework.
Oh, I'm sure they are. And then they have the Jet Lachenko, who was was up for a cup of coffee, got sent down. He's had a good year.
Oh, he has?
Yeah, he's had a good year, and he should be ready to go too. So we'll watch that. Hey,
got to figure out the goaltending situation, though, Bill. I don't know if Sam Erson's the answer. I don't know if the Russian guys are the answer.
No. I mean, right now, nobody's the answer. I think that's it's an open competition right now. Yeah. They're not very good. Hey, we had great guests tonight of Phil Stiefel and Scott Franzke. Who's coming to Philly Pressbox Radio next week, Chet?
Well, Bill, next week, by the time that we do our show next Wednesday evening, the Phillies will have 4 or 5 games in the books already. So we're going to talk more about what to expect this Phillies season with a Hall of Fame baseball writer. It's the great Paul Hagen. Always appreciate hearing Paul's insights into all things baseball. For now, just that one guest, though, Bill, and that means I just might sneak in a random Chet segment. You never know.
Okay, sounds good. Hey, I want to throw one more quick Sixers comment at you because our pal Keith Pompey wrote this yesterday.
We have to.
Yeah, well, I want to get your thoughts on this. Keith wrote this yesterday about the Sixers game, which is tonight. 9 Sixers are not playing. 7 Wizards are not playing.
It's an embarrassment.
Can the NBA continue to survive this kind of thing? I mean, who would pay to see this?
They're going to survive it, but it's not good right now. Let's face it. Nobody's rushing out to buy tickets. It's mostly season ticket holders who are there or season ticket holders who have sold their tickets for a big loss to people who just want to go experience an NBA game. Although this isn't going to look a whole lot like an NBA game with the guys that are out on the court. It's just sad. It hurts my heart, Bill, to see what's happening to the 76ers right now. A team that we thought was going to win, 50 to 55 games and, make yet another attempt at getting past the second round of the playoffs. Instead, they're looking at having the 4th or 5th or 6th worst record in the league, just like the Flyers, and getting, a high lottery pick. Hopefully, got to get the 5th or 6th pick at worst in the draft to hold on to that pick. It's sad. And, Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse are both in danger of losing their jobs, and it would certainly be justified if they were let go because it's an embarrassment, and I hate seeing what's happened to this great franchise in recent years.
Yeah, it's terrible to watch, and they're let the fans down. Besides, with this 9 guys not playing thing, that's a letdown to the fans, and that disappoints me a lot. If you remember, Chet, because you're old enough to remember, the Eagles played out the string one year, and it only cost them O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Hey, it's time to make our fearless forecast, I think.
I think it is.
Our Phillies season prediction. You polled a few of our resident experts as well, but I don't know who or what they said. So lay it on us.
All right. Well, yeah, before I mentioned to you that we were going to make our picks. Well, you knew that. I did contact a whole bunch of folks, and I looked online for some other ones, and this is what I found. I left ours blank for the time being, but our pal James Seltzer from WIP says 93 wins and a loss in the NLCS to the Dodgers. Jack Fritz, his high hopes partner, also said 93 wins, but he has him going to the World Series against the Red Sox. Paul Hagen, who's going to be our guest next week, 92 wins, but a loss in the NLCS. If you look further down, three guys from The Athletic all say the Phillies will not only win that National League pennant, but will also win the World Series. Tyler Kepner, Chandler Rome, and Zach Meisel all have the Phillies winning the World Series. Matt Gelb has them losing in the series to the Rangers. So just some of the picks that are out there. As I mentioned earlier, last year the Phillies won 95, but they were on pace at one point for 117 wins. The over-under last year, I think, was 89.5, and they won 95. I should mention also that I bet the over on the Phillies the last 2 or 3 years, and I cashed. And this year, the over-under is 90.5. A few books have them at 91.5. Well, I'm going to bet the over again for a third or fourth straight year, and I am hoping to cash again. I'm saying 93 wins, Bill, but a loss in the NLCS to either the Braves or Dodgers. What say you, Bill? Can't hear you, Bill.
I am going to say, I didn't know until you mentioned earlier that I picked. How come? You hear me?
Yeah, you're in and out. Go ahead.
Okay. I said I didn't know that I had picked 90 last year because I picked 90 this year until you mentioned it earlier. So I'm going with 90 again, I guess. I don't think they're going to be as good as last year. I'm not in love with this team. I'm in love with the players. The way that Phil mentioned exactly what I was going to say. If they don't learn to play the game differently and drive in runs and play some small ball and do some other things, I don't see them being as good this year. If they're going to go up, try to hit home runs and walk back to the dugout, I don't see them being as successful. I don't think the Mets are going to be, just because they signed Sosa. Sosa. The Braves are going to be pretty good. I'm going. They're going to get knocked out in the second round.
Okay. All right. So here's the collection of picks. You say 90 wins knocked out in the NLDS. I have 93. Boop, 99 and a World Series title, but Boop also predicted a Sixers world title. So I don't know, Boop. I hope he's right. There you go, Bill.
All right. We'll see how it goes. Anything else before we wrap it up?
One thing we want to mention, George Foreman last week died. I guess it was maybe Wednesday night, Thursday. Man, what a legend. 76 years old, I believe. Fought, well into his 40s, made a couple of comebacks, had some memorable bouts, and sold a lot of barbecue grills along the way, too. So rest in peace, Big George.
Absolutely. Man, he might have been a bigger star out of the ring than he was in the ring, and he was a pretty good fighter back in the day.
We didn't mention March Madness at all, Bill. You know why? Because I don't follow college basketball close enough, but I did make picks. So did you. I'm not winning any money.
No, I'm not winning any money, but I'm still hanging in there. I'm all right. Hey, speaking of March Madness, how about the Penn State Nittany Lions wrestling team?
Oh, yeah.
Winning another national championship. And what a tremendous event taking place at the Wells Fargo Center for the nation to come watch wrestling. It was great.
And they get huge crowds at Penn State for those wrestling events, too. So, man.
And another national championship.
Yeah. Congratulations, Penn State.
Good stuff.
We are.
All right. You ready to wrap it up? All right.
Up.
Let's thank tonight's special guests, Phil Stiefel and Scott Franzke. Our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgate, and PPCC 118 Raz Room. For Jim Chet Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll join Philly Press Box Radio next Wednesday, April 2nd already at 7 p.m. You can see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel, and on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel, and listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans, and let's go Phillies.